Okay, so hopefully with the previous do exercise, that was the one where you were supposed to go to geogebra.org. I gave you a link to a thing where you mess around with something that looks like this. Hopefully you went there and you messed around with it and you answered those questions. Because I want to go over what some of the main things you should have gotten from that are. Now, there were a lot of things you could say about how changing B changes the graph, for example. Um, there's you could just go on forever. I could talk about parabolas all day, but I want to go over some of the main things you could have gotten. The more, and if you got more detail than what I'm about to tell you right now, that's excellent. So here's some main ideas. If you have y equals ax squared, that would be like if b is 0 and c is 0. So things that look like ax squared plus 0x plus 0 would be ax squared. And hopefully you figured out that if a is positive in that case, then it opens upwards. And if a is bigger than 1, it gets steeper. It kind of moves further away from the x-axis. And if a is less than 1, it kind of makes it wider there. And if a is negative, it ends up going upside down. And then the same thing, the further away from 0 that a gets, so if you have lesser negative numbers, it gets steeper that way too. So hopefully you notice that. That's kind of what a does. And then whatever else you have for b and c, so here's moving c around. Whatever else you have for b and c, hopefully you're noticing that changing c moves it upwards or downwards. It also gives you the y-intercept, because you'll notice if you plug in x equals 0 into whatever you have, like, for example, this one, if x is 0 here, you'll get y equals 0 plus 0 plus 2.5, and that's the y-intercept. Changing c also changes the x-intercepts too, but mostly we think of c as just shifting things up and down and also giving you the y-intercept. B does some weird stuff. B kind of moves it diagonally is the way I like to think of it. It changes the x-intercepts and changes the vertex and kind of makes the whole thing wiggle around. So you could have described what B does any way you wanted. So just wanted to make sure that you know these two facts. That's the main thing you should know about your explorations with parabolas. And in the next video, we'll go into some more details about the vertex and how to graph things if you don't have a graphing calculator handy.